Hi, I'm Joe Scacciaferro, and this is On Location. All right, today's guest, kind of twisting the stories around here. I know this is On Location, and all the people that you've ever seen on Location are veterans who've been at this a long time. But I had the honor of working with someone at NYU and part of the student program that Faro City was involved in. And you know that word phrase, diamond in the rough? Well, I stumbled on one. And I thought she impressed me so much in her work that I said, okay, I'm getting her on, but I want to do the interview and I don't want to put her on the other show. You know what? I'm going to shut up. Sophie Leiton Toomey, how are you?
Good. How are you, Joe?
I'm doing great. So was that enough of a hype?
I'm deeply honored. What an introduction. That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you've earned every bit of it. And people who know me know I don't do that. I don't gush. I don't get excited. I don't get excited about being around majors. But when I see something just that I know is so genuine and so real. So let me explain to the audience what happened. So Faro City's dealing with NYU and these little projects, and there's several teams, and they have to come up with a storyline. We help pull the story, not the content of the story. We help just structure how you go about it, what you need as cameras, and kind of just be there as a support net. So Sophie and her team did something that has been unique to all of them. They wrote an episodic and then acted in the episodic and then shot the episodic and then edited the episodic. And in the end, it was really good. And when I got it, I was like, I'm impressed. So, and what I was most impressed with, everything else was great, but your acting was incredible. And it was so incredible that I almost thought you weren't acting. And I'll explain that. You're going to explain that. So I'm going to stop talking. Tell us, we're going to show a little clip, but not right this second. Tell us a little bit about what it was like on your side of this and how that whole story came to be.
Sure. So I had the wonderful opportunity of working with Carolina and Ariba, who were my teammates in this. And we really wanted to, the team outside and inside really wanted to highlight, voices that are not told or highlighted as much, in college stuff. And I, as someone in the industry, I've often dealt with that frustration of, not having people, that are disabled, being highlighted. So we really wanted to, change that and create a project that, brings light to that, but also, makes it very personal and human. And so we got around to writing, a sort of situation that I've dealt with a lot, being with a therapist, for the 1,000th time, and it reaches a point where, you get frustrated and you don't even want to give it a chance. And so we really wanted to highlight that experience within Mars's journey and the character that I play, as well as, the various difficulties that, someone like me, as well as, the various health things, either mentally or physically can, affect somebody at a university like NYU, which is over 50,000 kids in a city that is always consistently moving and is not really built for someone like me. So we really wanted to talk about, the experiences of a young woman, trying to find her place in the world and in a world that is, very much not built for her.
Wow. So also, you haven't really stated it. You have autism. Is that how that's phrased?
Yes.
Or you are autistic? Is that the proper phrasing?
I prefer, I mean, everybody prefers it a little differently. Personally, I say like I have autism.
Right.
But I'm just one person, one person opinion. It's not like a universal truth or, it might be to somebody else. For me, it's like, I prefer I have autism.
Okay, cool. So, and I'm not blowing that off. If you know me, most people know me. My oldest daughter has special needs, so I've been living in the community of trying to identify names of how to introduce her. And I always make sure that I'm highly sensitive to. Nothing else am I sensitive to, but I am sensitive to that. So, the first scene we're going to show is really the opening scene, which is I'm going to keep. I know it sounds like I'm promoting this. It's so powerful. I mean, your team used such basic technique, but used it so well. To me, it's like a blues artist who doesn't. You listen to it, and it doesn't sound like it's not a screaming guitar. It's not speed licks, but it's so emotional. And that's what you guys did. So we're gonna roll that clip in now for a second, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the opening clip.
You're very precise about time, aren't you?
I just don't like when things don't start or end when they're supposed to.
Understandable. Well, it won't be long now. All right, it's 2 p.m. sharp. Let's begin.
All right, but I don't really have anything to say.
Oh, I know. Your mom called me ahead of time.
She did?
And I'm correct in understanding that this is far from your first therapist?
Yes.
So am I also correct in assuming that you have no desire to be here?
Oh, absolutely not.
I see.
Yeah, no offense, I don't exactly have a glowing track record when it comes to people like you. If my mother didn't pay the fee, I would not be here.
Not one to mince words, are you?
I mean, would you rather I lied to you?
Not at all. No, I want you to be as honest as you can be with me.
Highly unlikely. You people are all the same to me, you don't understand me, and you don't make me feel better, so can we just start this session before it inevitably fails?
Well, how about you take me through a day in the life for you?
A day in the life?
Yes. Oh, I know you kids are into TikToks nowadays and showing your life, so why not show me yours? Get me to understand.
All right. So what you saw in that, why don't you go through real quickly what that setup was? You kind of already did, but just give us a little better sense of what you were trying to emote in that moment.
Yeah, so I'm definitely someone that's like Mars, been in and out of therapy all my life, could never find like a specific, therapist to really, get me. It's very hard to like find, a therapist that gets you, which is why, so many people like don't commit to it as much. And, I wrote the first section and I really wanted to, communicate, somebody that like desperately does want help, but also like has given up on the idea that it could work and that it could definitely just like, be something worthwhile if you just give it a chance. But, like I always say, when you've been burned so many times, like you don't want to give it a chance. And I just wanted to highlight, sort of the realism of that, especially like for someone like me, it's very hard to like find people like me. So especially, at school. It's a lot of different people, they're able to find their family and their tribe. And, for me, it's been a little bit harder in that respect in a lot of ways. So I really wanted to highlight, a very truthful telling about, somebody that has like all but given up on like finding friends, finding community, finding anything, in terms of like somebody to, connect with. I mean, New York, I remember somebody saying in New York a few years ago that it can be the loneliest place, like, which is a line in the movie, it can be the loneliest place if you let it be. And I'm like, yes, but it's also a little bit more complicated than that. Like, yes, you have to put yourself out there, but it also can be, hard because of, how big it is and, how fast paced it is, but also it can be difficult, because maybe you don't find, maybe the people you find, they don't get you,
Right.
and then kind of like build up that like, oh, there's something wrong with me. I'm the one with the problem. I'm the one who, can never have that, and it can kind of eat away at you.
Sure. Absolutely. And I'm going to get back to this in a second. I want to run the second clip because the two together are now this is further on in the storyline. And you set it up. It's not my show. Go ahead. So tell me what I'm about to see.
You were about to see a clip that was shot in my friend Ariba's dorm room in Brooklyn, and basically it just deals with kind of what comes into Mars's head when all that stimulation just like is a distraction. Like all that stimulation from the world is like a distraction, and then when she comes home, it's like it's kind of hard to avoid, your head and your brain being mean to you and telling you like you're a failure, you can't do this right, you can't do this right, do this right. When you're alone, it's easier and kind of hard to fight that, as opposed to like when you're in the middle of like, something like this, where you're stimulated. And when you're alone, it's easier to like pull the blankets over your head and be like, what is even the point, and we wanted to highlight, a very, truthful experience about, somebody that just like feels alone. And when they're alone in their dorm room, it's very easy to like, feel isolated and continue to feel alone.
So well spoken. All right, let's roll that clip for a second.
I am such a failure. I don't want to do this anymore. Everyone is so annoyed at me, including my professor, and now I'm going to fail this class. I'm a burden to everyone, and I just can't do a single thing right. I'm so stupid. Tired. Really tired. Oh, it's so hot in here. I can't believe I have to wake up to do this again tomorrow. This is so miserable. Why is it so hot in here? I don't understand how these people do it all day. What am I not getting? God, I wish I could get hit by a car.
Okay. Every time I see it, I'm just blown away. Let me ask you it's a technical question.
Mm-hmm.
Did you write this scene?
I did not, no, but
That's crazy. And I'm saying it, I knew the answer, and excuse me, I got a little excited. That's why when you said that to me after, and I had seen it, and you said you didn't write it, and I just said, okay, she's an incredible actress. I mean, you can't be an actor. Like if you had written the words and you've lived the life and you did all that, that would have still made you a good actor because you sold the scene. But you didn't write the words.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. You did such a great job.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Ariba and I, and Carolina and I, we really wanted to, like make a truthful experience, with that, because I've been there, they've been there, I think so many kids at NYU and any colleges across the country, have been there, where they come home after a really bad day and they kind of start this whole self-destructing, manner of just lying in bed and not getting out, and trying to fight it. It's like, it's one thing to say, be like, obviously logically, you aren't this, and this, but when you're alone and there's nobody with you, it's very easy to like internalize it and start to believe it. So, we really wanted to, as I keep saying, highlight that truthful experience that I think, I've had, they've had, and, so many college kids have had.
Let me ask you, a lot of times, those of us in the industry, we're on the fringe, all of us. I haven't met anybody in this industry at any level doing anything that wasn't in the back of the classroom. I mean, we were always, you said it earlier, finding your tribe. I don't think I found my tribe until I was 28. And that was when I got really into the business and I met people and I all of a sudden it happened. How much of your situation do you bring to your acting?
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you call on? Do you feel as though that actually is an asset, if I can say it that way?
Yeah, I think in some ways, yes. You know, I feel like when I was growing up, my mother would, when I was growing up, I had difficulty, communicating, like what we're doing now. But the thing that always helped me learn how to talk was watching media and watching, films and television. And I would often, repeat that back to my mom and my father all the time. And that's kind of how we started communicating, by, me playing the first Toy Story probably like 10,000 times. Sorry, mom and dad. But, as a result, I got to, not only like doing mimicry so much, with the various voices I heard, but also like learning to memorize. My mother would often say to me that I could like sing the entire soundtrack to The Sound of Music before I could like, really have a conversation. So, I think that's why in a lot of respects, like this was the only like true path for me, because it's always been a part of my life. It's always been my life. And now in the past like year or so, especially since the pandemic, it's evolved into, being a writer and being a director and being, what I've learned in the past year is like called a multi-hyphenate. And, I think in a lot of respects, it does help me because, I've had to, observe human behavior in order to fit in. And as a result, it's given me a lot of perspective into, characters that I can relate to and characters that I may have a little more difficulty relating to. So in a lot of respects, like, the stigma towards autism is that, we can't understand human behavior. And, and sometimes, yes, it is a little challenging, but it doesn't mean, it's not possible. I mean, in my case, I can only speak for myself, observing human behavior is how I learned to, like fit in, be normal. Like a lot of people tell me, oh, you don't look like you do. And I'm like, well, a lot of years of study and mimicry, kind of just like, made me.
So you've literally been an actor since you can remember.
Basically, yeah.
That is, I don't want to ever minimize the struggle you've been through, but I have to tell you, that's awesome. That is, talk about making lemonade from lemons, battling your way through that, but not just leveling up, taking that and making it an asset and bringing it to the next level. That's killer. And I mean, I'm sure because you've watched a lot of media, you've also, and I relate everything to music, so I apologize. But if you talk to most successful musicians, music was their escape. And most artists, most creative people, the reason they gravitate towards what they do, I do, all of us do, still do, is that's your escape. That's where you go and hide. That's your safe place. So it's so cool listening to you talk. And the best part about it is I'm sitting here saying, she's saying she can't communicate, but she's probably one of the best interviews I've done so far. And I was like, is she just faking this? Is this her acting? Because if she is, she's really good.
Just me.
That's so awesome. That you're so wonderful. So let's talk about, okay, school's going to finish soon, right? You have less than a year to go, right?
Yeah.
What do you do? Because now you're out in that big city that you don't like.
Yep. I do love it. I do love it very much. It's just like some things are just annoying, like the ambulances that always just like run down with blasting. As for what happens after graduation, no clue. I hope that things start to, formulate more of a path. But I know, like, we're artists. That's not really. We're choosing a path that is not as concrete as we would like. I hope that, I'm starting to, try to find, representation and, start, finalizing my own scripts, and start shooting my own stuff. Like I just did 2 finals, both for producing for film and producing for TV, where I had like 2 different concepts for both of them. One that developed when I was at my internship at the Paley Center for Media over the summer with, the people that did become my tribe, which is hilarious because, we had only met over Zoom until July, and then we, became in real person friends. And then there is, my in progress movie, which hopefully will, be finished in the next year, inspired by my own best friend at NYU and our time together. And, I really want to I think the biggest lesson I've learned at NYU is like, there's going to be a lot of silence. So you got to like make your own stuff, and you got to take matters in your own destiny into your hands. Like, I think, I was rejected from this internship, but the thing that the person who was the leader that told me is just like, most of the stuff I got, it was from me. It wasn't because of, like my agent or anything. And I've learned that, over the years, especially, going to school in a pandemic. And so I hope eventually, to find rep as an actor, find rep as for literary, and, just start making my own stuff. And, like, now that I know there's more to, the world than, just acting, which, I will always love and continue to pursue. I mean, that is my life, just creating my own stuff, is pretty empowering, especially, like someone like me that is trying to break into an industry that is historically known for, not casting people like me and not like having them be in the writer's room or director's chair, as often as they probably could. And so, part of the reason that I, continue to be so open about my autism is to like, start a line of people, like me to finally be in the industry, and make those stories and just, start that line of change that I've been waiting for years. And, hopefully like this will be a start of that.
Oh, that's spoken beautifully. Yeah, unfortunately, somebody's got to do it. And looks like God said you. So good luck with all that. But you are the absolute, so far, the perfect spokesperson for this. And I'm going to offer up Faro City and Faro Productions and Triple S. So if you look at all my companies, whatever any of us can do to support you, to help you, all the way down to frontline production, to get your films done, you have us. We're there. Whether I have to twist arms or not, I'll make that happen for you.
Thank you.
You did say something in there that's critically important, is that you saw there's other opportunities than the one. Mm-hmm. The interesting part, when I started working with NYU students, I had been distant from that for quite a while, obviously. And my interns come from all over the place. Just the people of my tribe. We call it a pirate ship. Everybody on my pirate ship is us. So when I dealt with NYU, it was a very different culture for me. And I realized a lot, and I'm not knocking NYU or any university, but everybody seemed to, when I said, well, what's your aspiration? Director, screenwriter, actor. Mm-hmm. I looked at that and went, do you know how big this industry is?
Yes.
This industry is monstrous. There are so many creative places. There are, but I think that's coming in without knowing that. You think that that's the creative outlets.
Yeah.
Like that's where the power and the creative happens. But it's truly an aspect of it. Without a DP, the director's not getting anything done. Without a lighting guy, the DP's not getting anything done. Without the cinematographer, it's all that collaboration. Yes. Writers, it's not very, very rarely is it a writer sitting home penning the perfect film and taking the feature and greenlighted it. Everybody puts their hand in it. Editors, readers, everybody's touching everything. And that's what makes it cool.
Yeah.
I mean, once you accept that and start looking around, I kind of just flipped our interview around now. Now I'm actually doing Ask an Insider. But that is how the industry works. And that's the awakening you seem to have already touched on.
Yeah.
Because there's stuff you may all of a sudden realize, wow, I love lighting. Or, oh, you know what? Sound modeling is so cool. I didn't even know it existed. And when you start doing your own projects, you're going to have to touch all those things.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to interface with all of us. You know, if you need a soundtrack to support your piece, you need to convey that to the musician, to the composer. So you're going to have to learn like where their muse comes from. How do they think? What do they like to do?
Yeah.
You know, and that you got that. I know you can do that. But I wish I was at that point in my life, because it's so exciting to not know anything about where you're going.
Yeah. And I learned that lesson a lot, you know, when I had to, do Princess Hamlet, I had to direct that during the pandemic, and it was like we were still trying to figure out, how to do theater and direct stuff and do projects, while being, away from each other. And it was really hard, and it really sucked, not being able to like be in the room with everybody. So we had to do, a lot of experimenting, on their end, on my end, in regard to lighting, sound, set design, so like I learned really quickly that like, you have to be able to be comfortable, like within your own vision and your own concept in order to best support, the people around you. And, it was a very interesting experience, like being able to like highlight that vision in such a, non-usual way, such as, doing it on Zoom. And, as a result, like when we eventually did The Winter's Tale on Zoom with, me back in the director's seat, a lot of the lessons I took from Hamlet, I put in that, and it really opened up my eyes to like, how you also have to work in a team, but also like you have to like make sure your vision, is still there, and it was a very important lesson. Like, I know people are just like, we want to move on from the pandemic. There was nothing good about the pandemic. And I'm like, yes, the majority of that is correct. Wish it never happened. But I also think, I took very important lessons from my time in my room and time, just like doing something like this, and like being able to like organize things like this. So like, it was a very important lesson, to be, like firm in your vision, working in a team, but also like, knowing that it's a lot more complex than, I think a lot of people make it out to be.
Oh, absolutely. And I agree with you. And again, the pandemic sucked. We all know that. There's nothing medically, from a human standpoint, there's nothing good about it. But from what it forced all of us to do and adjust technically, we all had a pivot. I mean, and I've been in this industry my whole life, so I've been battling races and technology forever. Nothing was like that. That pivot was like I was landed on another planet. And we were, I mean, I'm still responsible at that point for delivering broadcast, or we're responsible for stuff's got to go on the air. You can't just put up a little slate and says, sorry, pandemic, see you in 6 months. Mm-hmm. You had to figure out, and we were doing things like, learning how a director in Utah and a graphics person in Michigan and, a host in New York, and how are we all communicate? Because we're normally sitting in a room together. And you had to learn how to make that all happen. Technology wasn't even in place for that. Usually technology leads the way. All of a sudden, nothing was real. We didn't know how to do it. Technology wasn't there. And we were scrambling. And for us, it became, one of my directors happened to have a good friend who was EA Sports.
Oh, wow.
And they do this. So we were adopting they were teaching us how to use this tech. And we were saying, oh, okay, well, you do that because you think it's a controller. We need that because we think it's a switcher. And we were just translating words, and we pulled it together. So and it still exists now. To this day, hybrid television is still a big part of what we do. All these streams, a lot of the live, especially in sports, the camera ops are all over the world operating an event, that could be in Missouri.
Right.
And it is what it is now. So it's kind of cool. And the fact that you recognize that, and I'm listening and I'm saying, and she's saying one of the things that she had to do was communicate. And I'll reverse this and go back to the first 5 minutes when you told me the hardest thing you needed to do was learn how to communicate. And that's all that could have been.
Yeah.
Especially when you're communicating with different disciplines. It's fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like so many different. I mean, one of the cool things about the drama program is that there are so many people that come from like so many different studios, like with so many different styles, and you have to like learn their process and accept it and use it to bring out the best in them. And I remember the girl that played Hamlet, Amanda is her name, and we sat down and talked about her anxiety around the iconic to be or not to be speech. And I literally just sat her down and I'm like, Amanda, it's just any other speech. Don't put too much weight on it. It's just a question, and a problem that you work through, as you go down the ladder. And, it's all it is. Like, take that pressure off of yourself. And, when we eventually reached that point, it got to, what it ended up being, which is, her being absolutely amazing and delivering this speech the way, she would do it. And it's really cool that she was able to get that level of nuance and just, truth in this Zoom play. And it was just beautiful to witness, and just knowing that like we had that conversation and how it helped her, just be truthful in that moment. It was very beautiful to watch.
Any way we can get our hands on that? I'd love to see it.
I'm trying to figure out. Part of the recording got cut, so only Act 2 is available. But I am trying to make it actually a film. I really wanted to, translate it to film because it worked so well over technology. And the more I just think about it, like since we did it during the pandemic, the more I've wanted to, try to bring the band back together and, shoot it.
That's cool.
Really cool. Yeah.
That's great. And good directing. I mean, I know you were reliving a moment, but that's it. Mm-hmm. That's the game right there. Yeah, you've transitioned into a whole bunch of stuff. That's you're spot on.
Thank you.
You ever have any inkling to step away from that side of it and move more into any of the trade sides of anything that's out there? The actual cameras, any of that interest ever pop into your head?
If I were not so bad with, if I weren't so fearful of technology, I definitely would. But I'm learning. I'm learning how to do it, because I'm forcing myself to get out of my comfort zone, because I watch a lot of these TV shows and some of them drive me crazy with, how better it could have been edited. And, I really want to get over my, and learn how to edit better, because I want to, be able to, make some really cool cuts, with the projects that I want to do. And, I definitely want to force myself, more into more comfortability with that.
Yeah. And that's the reason I was saying that is not so much to become the camera person or become the editor or the lighting guy. What you need to be able to do is have an appreciation for what they do.
Oh, absolutely.
And then be able to communicate to them what your vision is within their scope of what they're doing. Because I've been around too many executive producers, SEG producers, TV, whatever, directors, and they're always asking for things that are impossible.
Yes.
Impossible based on a budget. Anything's possible. You can go to Lucasfilms and you can get whatever you want. but you better come with a big sack of money.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, in the reality of things, even, you know, even network, high level television, Paramount Plus, any of that, any of the big streams, the money's not as big as you think it is.
Yeah.
So you have to have a really good, efficient way to talk to your camera person.
Yeah.
But if you've never looked through a lens, if you've never conceptualized the shot, two things happen. Is one, you've limited your vision, your practical vision, because you've never actually seen the world this big.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, you're asking the camera person doesn't know what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in recording studios where the producer's telling me to get more red out of the guitar player. We need more red. He's got to feel. I got to feel red.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at him. I said, "What are you talking about? That's a color." My impression is red angry? Is red hot? I don't use other words. Yeah. This is an emotional art. Red doesn't help.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing you learn as time goes on. The more things you put your hands on, the more disciplines you talk to and befriend, every one of them teaches you more things. And it becomes so helpful. And it allows you to become, your vision just explodes.
Yeah, definitely. I love those aspects, and you know, I have such respect for the cinematographers and the composers and the editors. Like, I feel like, you know, they're the ones that like make the films and TV really shine. You know, like I always say to my father whenever we watch something, like if the score is, you know, not engaging, then I kind of start to mentally check out. So, you know, just making sure that those areas are so solid, you know, especially, you know, as we worked together over the pandemic, was like so important, especially, you know, when things change from day to night and, you know, good to bad, and making sure that those moments were solid. So it really highlighted the emotionality and human nature of the characters. And so, you know, I really grew to, you know, really respect these individuals and the work that they do, especially when I was locked up in my house and really had no sort of escape other than, you know, to watch and learn.
Right.
By watching these shows and watching these films. And that was pretty much that was my education. You know, especially when I wasn't in school and I had no choice but to, you know, learn storytelling from people that have done it so well.
Right.
You know, and what makes those movies really work, you know, and what doesn't make them work, and how, you know, how I or anybody could potentially, you know, have made these shows better, you know, or how they could have been more effective in their either storytelling or presentation.
That's it. You're all set now. You don't have to do it. If you're doing that already, you're set. Because that's the big thing. People miss it. I always say, I mean, I use effects, any of the special effects. Mm-hmm. I said, when people walk out of that theater and go, man, the effects were amazing, the effects guy screwed up. Mm-hmm. You should never see the effect. It should never be the thing. The story is the story. Yeah. If the effects become the story, then that's a mistake. That can't be. Or if somebody comes out, I mean, other than industry people who we look at things differently. Mm-hmm. But, you know, the average person walks out of there and goes, oh, the lighting was incredible. It's not supposed to be. You're not supposed to notice the lighting. Right. So, you know, it's got to be woven into the story, which I don't even have to give you the insight. I guess I did a good job putting you on location and not ask an insider, because I'd have been asking you questions. So,
I'm glad.
No, this has been great. Unfortunately, I'm the clock's clicking away here. I'm going to have to go. I do want you to just, when you get a chance, poke around the on locations. Now that you're a star, poke around the on locations, because a lot of those people that you want to listen to and know how they do what they do, or how they think the way they think, or how that gets done. That's all the interviews that we're doing. It's all of those people, and we're, you know, usually I'm shooting for people who've been at it, leaders in the industry.
Yeah.
So I guess you're now one of the leaders in the industry.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet.
Okay. Sophie, again, I'm going to close with, so it's recorded and nobody can back out. I can't back out of this. You need our help. You got our help. Whatever you need us to do.
Oh, thank you. That's so
All right.
sweet. I appreciate that.
Good luck in your last semester. Yes.
Thank you. Yes.
All right. Let me know. Stay in touch.
I will, definitely.
Okay.
Thank
Bye-bye.
Bye.